I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands, depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I loved music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he is going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
How easy is it for you to forgive someone who has hurt you? How easy is it? What are some tips, a person can apply to improve their public speaking skills?
We all have personality lazy somewhere around us.
In my mind, whenever I'm invited for a public speaking event, I don't like to put a lot of, accessories or too many colors.
What are the major things to look out when choosing a school for a child?
Another cheesy conversation starter is, men do this a lot. They look familiar. Have we met before? No. We met in
Nobody is buying that line again.
No, we don't. We don't buy it anymore.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki, na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasi wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi manzo.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
Of January, Wednesday, it is right here at the capital of the country, Nairobi, Kenya, Lavington. That's where our studios are. Good morning. Thank you very much for being a part and parcel of our broadcast this morning, and thank you for taking time to be with us at Look Up TV. The hashtag is the Morning Drift at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. That is how you can talk to us, tweet, chat with us, talk to us. We shall talk back to you as well. Our numbers are right there on your screen. want to engage with us, we'll be open for engagement as well this morning. What we're talking about this morning is the form of protest that we've seen across the country from a section of Kenyans and youth in general of hugging trees to pass a message. Yesterday, a tree hugging exercise was thwarted yesterday, and we'll be looking at that this morning. But the question is, after the Gen Z protests in 2024, do you think we've moved into a different form of protest in the country to force the government into action? And is it ever effective? That's the question that we asked this morning. Let me just go through a list of Kenyans who've attempted to hug trees just to pass their message. One, Trufena Mudhoni, a 22-year-old activist from Nyeri, who set a world record by hugging a tree for 72 hours in December 2025. Her protest highlighted mental health, that's what she was going for, climate change, and the neglect of indigenous forests. Later on, Eric Munene, a 28-year-old from Embu County, who undertook a 90-hour tree-hugging marathon to demand his village to provide him with basic public services like roads, water, and electricity. This was followed by Martin Muller, a youth from Kitui East, who hugged a tree for 100 hours in January 2026 to demand that the county government provide TVET sponsorships for 100 young people in his region. David Wanyoni, a father from Trans Nzoia, who hugged a tree as a form of protest against the high cost of education after his daughter was sent home for lack of school fee. Flora Onyango followed, an activist from Bungoma County, who spent over 70 hours hugging a tree to protest the systemic corruption and economic hardship that is disproportionately affects young women. Later on, Flora Onyango, all right, also, the next one was Stephen Kashanza, a 14-year-old student from Nairobi, who held a tree-hugging vigil at Jivanji Gardens to raise money for his brother's cancer treatment, bringing attention to the failure of the national healthcare system. Another one, Pastor James Ibungu, a Mwanga-based leader who hugged a tree for over 80 hours to raise cancer awareness. He eventually collapsed and suffered kidney failure, sparking a national debate on the physical risks of this protest. Doesn't stop there, goes on to Douglas Kitonga, a Meru-based journalist, who in January 2026 also hugged a tree for 50 hours to protest against threats to press freedom and poor working conditions of Kenyan journalists. Yesterday, another lady who went out also hugged a tree, but the chief came in and stopped that tree hugging exercise. We're going to talk about this morning with youth who are going to walk into the studio. We are asking the question, is this the new form of activism? Is this the way to go? And is it ever going to be effective in pushing the government to turn around in heeding to the voices of Kenyans, and most importantly, youth in the country? Are we a tree-hugging nation? That's the question that we're asking this morning. Talk to us at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. You're most certainly watching The Morning Drift. This is Look Up TV. Let's take a look at the dailies this morning. And as we normally do it, we're going to start with the Daily Nation, see exactly what it is that you're waking up to this morning in terms of these headlines. And yes, indeed, here it is. 11 billion looted from Shah. That is the big headline here. And interesting headline, isn't it? 11 billion. And they're saying the amount that has been paid to Social Health Insurance Fund in the past 14 months, it's 75 billion. Now, the Social Health Authority lost 11 billion to fraud between October 2024 and April 2025, with private hospitals submitting the bulk of fake claims a Ministry of Health audit has revealed 11 billion. 11 billion. Wow. Yeah? I mean, Kenyans, we never stop surprising each other. Do you know what 11 billion can do in healthcare in the country? Now, out of the 75 billion that was paid to these hospitals over the past 14 months, 11 billion of that was fraudulent. So the amount of money that was paid was just 64 billion. 11 billion has gone up in hot air. That story has been covered on page 4. And by the way, the scandal was highlighted last year when it's the Ministry of Health themselves who went in and highlighted the gaps that were in the reports that the hospitals were delivering for compensation. Sad headline that you're waking up to this morning here on the Daily Nation. Now, there's a story here on page 3. Murdered tutor had survived another Al-Shabaab attack. The age of the teacher who had been employed on permanent pensionable terms for a year before his killing on Sunday. Now, this is 2 years ago. Stephen Musili, a teacher at Hulugo Primary School in Garissa County, escaped by the skin of his teeth a raid by suspected Al-Shabaab terrorists. The attackers also left a chilling warning they would return. On Sunday, the father of 2 was shot dead by attackers at his rented house in Hulugo. That story is right here on the Daily Nation. It's a sad headline this morning. The guy was just 35 years old. No, a young Kenyan who's been murdered by terrorists in the country. Now, there's a story here as well of why there won't be new electoral units for 2027 polls. Next year's elections will rely on electoral map drawn 14 years ago, a move that shortchanges communities on representation and resource allocation, with poll agencies citing lawsuits for the delay. That story has been covered on page 5. And the story that we've also been running for some time, because after the reconstitution of IEBC, the question was whether they were ready to go into polls. Now, they said because they lack proper funding, they will not be able to create this new electoral units for 2027 polls. So how we went into election last year is the same way that we're going to go into election in 2027, because IEBC, according to this report, do not have enough money to go in and draw new maps that are supposed to guide the country into those electoral polls. That story has been covered on page 5 of the Daily Nation. Story on page 12, Famous at Crisis, how farming cycles, school terms and public transport fuel device. That story has been covered on page 12 of the Daily Nation. The majority of these stories have also been covered on our social media platforms and Look Up TV across all of them. You can also take a read in some of those stories that we are lighting on our social media platforms as well. Good. Let's then look at the Standard this morning, see what we have on it as well. It's a story here that is touching on the police service in the country. It's saying no longer in charge. It's a question that has been asked by the editors here. Lost control. Once again, the National Police Service finds itself at the center of a scandal, accused of escorting hired thugs to disrupt worship in Othaya. As public outrage grows, arrests remain elusive, and promised disciplinary action has failed to materialize, deepening suspicion of institutional paralysis or complicity. from the chain of command to the silence of senior officers, the incident has reignited fears that rogue elements within the service operate with impunity. That story has been covered on page 4 of the Standard. And we spoke at large yesterday on the conduct of the National Police Service in this latest incident that saw congregants attacked in a church in Othaya. Now, let's look at it. This is what Brigadier Gachagua did say, just in line with this particular headline. The police officers, that is a John Minor, alias Bemashan Peter Wainaina Kabuga, attached to Mwanga Women Representative Betty Minor, commanded police officers and goons led by Ambrose Munyeki from Mwanga, directly implicating the National Police Service in his latest claims. That is Brigadier Gachagua. And by the way, if you did listen to Betty Maina responding to this, she also did come out to say that the police responded to the alarm, continuing to say that they came in to protect you and that no bullet was discharged in them responding to that alarm. And in fact, all that she said was that they dispersed the goons that were brought into that congregation by one Brigadier Gachagua. All right, so let's see what Mushibi Nyaga, the police spokesman, is saying. We are providing support to the independent body just as we are in the Witima Church case. These are incidents that must be conclusively dealt with. The Internal Affairs Unit is working jointly with IPOA. But so far, even with the names that have been brought out by one Brigadier Gachagua and also other members of parliament who are also implicated in this, we haven't seen police statements recorded by one Brigadier Gachagua. We also haven't seen police statements recorded by one Betty Maina, because she's been implicated, which is why the Standard is asking no longer in charge, with police boss right there being put into frame. Do you agree that the police are acting as if they're not in charge? Talk to us at Look Up TV across all the social media platforms. We shall talk back to you as well. Good. Now, there's a lot that is trending this morning in terms of what Kenyans are talking about, and I do not know why up to now Arsenal and Man United are trending. Kenyans, I mean, these teams played on Sunday. Why are they trending up to now? Yeah, I completely do not understand why they're trending up to now this morning. Can we talk about something different as opposed to Man United and Arsenal? Yeah, timu za Ulaya zenye zilicheza wikendi. Leo ni siku ya Jumatano, right? I don't understand why it's trending today. We're going to avoid it. We don't talk about football on this show. So for me, I'm not going to touch on anything football this way, unless we give you the news that Champions League last league stage matches are getting played tonight. All the teams are going to play. All of them. How many teams are those? Is it like 64 teams? Yeah? So for those guys who like betting, this will be a good night for you to go out and bet. The news is that Arsenal, even if they don't play their last match, they're still going to qualify as the leaders in the league stage. That's only the news that I'm going to give you about football this morning. Yeah. But why Man United and Arsenal are trending, I completely do not know. All right, let's then jump into our trends this morning. And there's a clip here. It's a sad clip. There's a baby who has been found to lived in a wooden shed for close to a year. And now, yesterday, residents, with the help of local authorities, went in and found this boy who had been kept in a wooden pen for over, what was it, for over 7 years, isn't it? And it's disheartening, the stories that we got from here. Let's watch this clip when they were finding the 7-year-old boy, and then come back and talk about this particular story.
Parents lock him up. That's why he spends his days lonely, alone, and living like an animal. And the question is, what kind of country are we living in, where we have government, we have government officials who are supposed to take care of these very vulnerable members of our society? He's being fed through this small hole, again, like an animal. And yeah, it's high time we come together as a country and ask ourselves, what do we do? Why do we have these situations? Well, yeah, we do have resources to take care of this kind of persons in our community and society. Thank you.
Now, this happened in Meru, and this boy has been locking a son who has been living with a disability for 7 years in a pen and feeding him like a dog. It's a cruel world that we indeed live in. So let me see some of the reactions that have come from Kenyans on this particular story. This is Jock, who's saying this can't be true. If she accepted to keep the child, it means she loves him, and no one can torture someone they love. All right? African Mind was saying, so sad. What has the boy been thinking all this time? Why is he in this world? Terrible. All right? There's Adele who's saying, this is so sad. This Musawa, Eddie was saying, some parents are evil. Ezra Kiruyu was saying, there is one in my village, a girl who is now 19 years, no school. I can say it's a bias that isn't just isolated to this particular case. There's Ambrocho who's saying, all I can say is having a kid with a disability is not a joke. Some literally run away from the kids while others abandon them. The few stick with them through thick and thin. Finally, this is Eddie who's saying, parenting a disabled child is tough and calls for a pure divine heart of endless love. But abuse, neglect, or caging them, absolutely not. They are precious humans deserving compassion and freedom, not chains or caged living. Mucholo saying, sadly, this is caused by lack of awareness on disabilities. Some people still view disabilities as a curse. I hope the kid gets the help he deserves. Just sad. And it's indeed just sad, looking at this particular story. It's really saddening to imagine that this boy has lived in that pen for this long. All right, let's move to the next trending clip here on how Kerry now is has caught 392,162 individuals in a tax evasion crackdown, and this is a story that was reported by the Business Daily yesterday. I'll give you just a couple of details in this, and this is what they're saying. The amount of money that they've gotten out of this is 759.7 billion shillings. That's almost 1 trillion shillings in tax evasion crackdowns across the country. Now, this is what they're saying again, that they went in and used different mechanisms just to go in and get those who've been avoiding to pay tax. In some instances, the taxpayers declared nil returns, despite the firms they did business with declaring payments to them. Under withholding tax rules, firms paying for services like consultancy withholds and remit part of the taxes to the KRA in every payable check, with the taxpayers expected to pay the full duty at a later date. All right? Now, the taxman has unearthed the alleged tax cheats and the dodges in the wake of an audit of the withholding tax registry, which revealed that self-declared income was substantially lower than the amount reported by third parties paying for the taxpayers. So, in an instance where you've been paid 1.1 million, you say you've been paid 100,000, and that's how the disparity in withholding tax came to the light in this latest carry audit. And they're saying, in this one, they've identified 392,162 firms and wealthy individuals that owe it 759.7 billion. All right, setting the stage for travel bans, asset freeze, and deactivation of personal identification numbers, the PINs. That's how it is. That's Carrier that is saying we are coming for our 759 billion. And this is directly geared to wealthy individuals and those guys who've been evading tax in the withholding tax bracket. Good. Let me see some of the reactions then of Kenyans on this particular story. And here they are. Kiongo this morning was saying, if it's not big fish, nothing they have done. That's Kiongo this morning, who's responding to this particular story. Now, this is how KRA is using now bank statements, car registrations, Kenya power meters, water bills, and Kenya Civil Aviation Authority data to track luxury assets and catch tax cheats under declaring income. All right? Shoba Katimu saying, this reminds me when political class property was destroyed during the protest period. Some quoted loss of merchandise running into billions. We asked KRA whether their tax reflects the same. All of a sudden, walikuwa na shida ya macho, hawakuwa wanaona tweets. Mandamano Hoti at Omalicha was saying, but not for politicians and other families and side chicks. They've been found. Mohammed Musa was saying, what about the taxes stolen by the tax officials and the politicians? Finally, let me just read the second last tweet right here, who said Kenyans don't pay taxes. Taxes aren't just payee or income tax. The informal sector faces structural taxes through consumption, business levies, and indirect taxes. This can add up to match or even exceed formal tax rates. Finally, buying a car while filing nil returns is about to get harder. This is from Kering this morning. And you think civil servants are exempted from all that ripple? Are they excluded from VAT? This is Josh who was asking that question this morning as well. That's it this morning in terms of the trending issues, but I'm not just done with that. Now the last one, and I don't know whether we have it ready. Kenyans have been hitting on this one. This is a TikTok from Wanjiku, all right? This video from Wanjiku. There's a lady, and we're going to talk about this clip this morning from Wanjiku05 on TikTok. This is a chief in one of the areas in Central who thwarted the efforts of this lady from hugging a tree. Apparently she wanted to raise school fee for her kid, and she was facing those economic hardships, so she decided that the best way to do it is to go and hug a tree so that she can ask well-wishers from across the country to come in to her aid. This man here, who's the chief, comes in and says, ataki hapa bwana, we toka wende. Hii mambo ya kuhug mti, sisi hatujui. So let me just read some of the comments here. See what Kenyans essentially think about this one before we get into our conversation this morning. And this I think this happened the day before yesterday. I will just go through a couple of these comments so that we can see what was happening here. All right, just a couple of comments from Kenyans here, and this received a lot of. Jeanette Mohammed was saying, why would the chief do this? Rose Mbile was saying, Chief Mjinga Sana. Ima Frida was saying, this reminds me of the Kitale incident where a man hugged a tree to get school fee for his child. Either the member of parliament or the governor sent him 50,000, but he continued to hug the tree. At night, some men came and gave him a thorough beating. He had to run away and save his life. Carol was saying, Yani amwezi mtetea, and she was congratulating Muhesh for the good work. Actually, now, the reason as why she was hugging a tree was to congratulate one Ndindi Nyoro for declaring that school fee in Kiharu was going to be just 500 shillings a term. That's why she was hugging this tree. All right? Not the best approach from the chief, but it was about time someone stopped this madness. Sahi kila mtu akitaka mchango ana hug muti with some hypocritical reasons completely unrelated to trees. Kama ana celebrate Nyoro siende ama hug yeye. Why does it have to do with hugging trees? That's exactly what this one says here. Ni sawa tu till numbers za nini na kushika miti, tafuteni challenges zingine. That particular conversation actually takes us to our first break right here on The Morning Drift. And this is what we're going to talk about this morning on how Kenyans and especially youth from across the country have changed their protest from going to the streets into hugging trees. Are we a disappointed youth across the country? Are we hugging trees because our formal protests of going to the streets have not yielded any result? Is that why majority of youth across the country have then decided that the best way for us to do our protests is to hug trees? Is that what it is? Talk to us at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiangesimba. We take a tiny breather. Once we come back, the youth are already in the studio this morning. Let's talk about it. Why are we hugging trees? Is that what is going to make the government hear us? Is it because of a form of protest, especially after the Gen Z protest failed? Once we come back, let's table that discussion right here on The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. See you on the other side of the break.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands, depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I love music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like.
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he's going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika, na watasema hili waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasa wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mazuri.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
Is it for you to forgive someone who has hurt you? How easy is it? What are some tips, a person can apply to improve their public speaking skills?
We all have personality lazy somewhere around us.
In my mind, whenever I'm invited for a public speaking event, I don't like to put a lot of, accessories or too many colors.
What are the major things to look out when choosing a school for a child?
Another cheesy conversation starter is, men do this a lot. They look familiar. Have we met before? No. We met in
Nobody's buying that line again.
No, we don't. We don't buy it anymore.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
I think I've just realized why Arsenal could not beat Man United this Sunday. I've been told that Arsenal needed 3 points. Man United just needed to prove a point. And that's why we lost. Anyway, I imagine all Kenyans, it's been what, 4 days down the line. Arsenal is playing Champions League tonight. I mean, we should stop making Arsenal trend. Achama fans wasanali watulie kidogo jameni. It's been tough for us, all right? Let's breathe. Anyway, let's move away from what Kenyans are talking about online, and let's look at where we are as a country, especially the youth in our country right now. There's one thing that you have to recognize. There's a current wave of youth activism in Kenya, all right? And it's a direct evolution of the Gen Z movements that began in June 2024. Back then, the protest was defined by mass crowds, digital hashtags, and leaderless, tribeless defiance that forced the withdrawal of the 2024 finance bill, if you do remember, back in June. However, that victory came at a high cost. By the first anniversary of those protests in June 2025, over 60 lives, and those were the ones that were recorded, had been lost in the country, and hundreds of youth had been abducted or injured. That was the aftermath. In the face of this extreme state violence, the youth have now shifted tactics. They moved away from the 7 days of rage in the streets and toward they formed an individual, non-violent endurance known as tree hugging. By late 2025 and as early of 2026, activists realized that while the police could justify tear gassing a crowd, they struggled to justify attacking a lone individual hugging a tree in a public park. The silent protest is not just about the environment. This is a way to bypass state brutality while keeping the spirit of dissent alive through extreme personal sacrifice. Now, before I introduce the youth who are in the studio for us to look into this particular issue, I will not read the full names, but we're going to count what we already do know. Starting with Trufena Muthoni, a 22-year-old. We're going to go to Eric Munene. We're going to go to Martin Muller, David Wanyoni, Flora Onyango, Stephen Gashanza, Peter James Sebungu, Douglas Gitonga. If you count the number of names that I've counted there, those are around 7. Yesterday, there was the 8th one. There was also another man from, I think, Narok who also attempted this, but then it was discovered to be a fraud. Also, others we know them there. So if you can look at this list, those are almost 12 individuals who've come out to hug trees. Question is, are we a tree-hugging nation, or this is the new face of protests in the country? Good. Let me then introduce the guests who are in the studio with us this morning, just to help us understand what is going on with the youth in the country currently as it is. And then as much as this conversation is concerned, we do have Vivian Liambila, who's a youth advocate. Vivian, how are you doing? Happy to have you around.
Pleasure.
Karibu sana. We do also have Rotich David, who's a lawyer and youth advocate. Mr. Rotich, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir.
Happy to have you around.
The pleasure is all mine.
Karibu sana. All right. So we're going to jump into this conversation. And my first question goes to you, Vivian, this morning. I mean, it started with Trufena. Even her, she was not just doing it for the environment. There were other reasons as to why she did it. I'm just going to read what her reasons were. It was not just about the environment. Number one, the reason as to why she did it was, number one, because of, it was highlighting mental health in the country, climate change, and the neglect of indigenous forests. If you go to Eric Munene, a 28-year-old from Embu County, who undertook a 90-hour tree-hugging marathon, all right, he was doing it, so that his village could be provided with basic public services like roads, water, and electricity. Martin Muller. The reason as why he was doing it was so that 100 people from his village could be sponsored into TVET institutions in his area. David Wanyoni, a father from Tanzania, did it for lack of school fee. Flora Nyango, corruption and hardships in the country that she said affected young women in Kenya. Goes on to Stephen Gashanza. I mean, we would read all this. You will see that they're not just doing it for the environment, they're doing it for other reasons other than just the environment. Is this the new face of protests in the country from young people? And do you support this tree-hugging exercise?
Thank you for that question. Youths are just trying to send a message to the government, whichever way. At first we saw how they demonstrated against how life is hard in Kenya, which is true. But now they have come with another new face of hugging a tree, which Trufena Muthoni did. And all the reasons of all the youth that did, or whoever did the hugging of tree, they're all valid, according to me. They're all valid. Yes. But now, Muthoni was challenging herself, according to what she did last time. And he broke the record, according to Guinness World Record. But now, others that are following, they're just doing it out, according to me, they're doing out of, they need help. As how they're doing it, they actually need help. And they're trying to do something that will make them being recognized and get the same help that they're looking for.
Yes.
So I don't see any problem about it. It's only that the timing is a bit wrong. Now that, according to yesterday's, was it a woman?
Yes, it was a lady. Yes, from Kiharu.
Lady.
Yes.
You know,
The timing was just wrong, but the reason is also okay because Njoro is doing a great job. And according to me, if I was there,
hug a tree because Ndidi Nyoro, you said school fee in the area is going to be 500 shillings.
But she's just trying to tell the world or to tell us Kenyans that Ndidi Njoro has done the best of bringing the classes or the schools.
By hugging a tree?
Maybe that was her way of making us know about it. Maybe that is her own way. Because what else, maybe, sorry, the community have not come out and tell us what the government or what the Njoro did.
Yes.
She decided, I'm going to make Njoro famous. I'm going to make people know what Njoro is doing. And that is what she did. I don't see any problem with that. Because others are doing it. Why should she not? And again, the chief, how he removed her there was a bit inhuman. How he tried to cut it off, it was not well with me.
Is it because all of a sudden, for every other person who's in Kenya watching this tree hugging protests, it's become a trend, which we do know, in some cases, it's landed some people in hospital. Like, is there a better way to pass our messages other than hugging trees?
For now, I don't know, because if we protested, it's just the same thing. We are protesting the same things that they are protesting now using hugging trees, you know.
Yes.
And the government did not hurt us. In fact, a lot of youths end up killed. If we used that, we used force to make the government hear us, but they didn't. Why should we not? You know, I see it's kind of, it's hard. To me, I cannot hug a tree even for 2 hours. I can't. It is difficult for me. Now, if they see it, if it is normal and it is okay for them to hug a tree, for them to send a message to the government and to the people, then let it be. It's just, we just need to adjust some laws against it or towards it.
Yes.
Because health issues is also being involved here. You cannot hug a tree without being, as Trufena was first checked to the hospital, was medically checked, and she was approved to do that. It was a long process. But now, any other Kenyan, like me, I just wake up in the morning and say I'm going to hug a tree. I'm not even sure if I'm medically fit to do that. No. I end up, you see, many of them have ended up, I had someone fainted, you know. A lot of health issues. They are just trying to, of course they're making us sense and sending a message, but now the way it is going to be a bit not well received.
Yes, but you're saying you support regardless.
I supported it.
You supported it, now
yes.
You don't anymore.
No, I don't. No, I don't, actually I don't. It is not safe. It is not.
Rotich, let me cross to you before I go back to Vivian on these other issues as well. I mean, it started with Trufena, and it looks as if she was not going to do it. Picked a lot of momentum across the country. And then you realize she wasn't just doing it for the environment, she was even doing it for other reasons as well, you know, other advocacy reasons. Things that she observed in this country, and she said, I'm going to hug it and raise awareness around this particular situation. But then a flurry of Kenyans then have followed in hugging trees. It doesn't stop. I mean, since we opened this year, already we are at 12 plus, and more will probably come out and continue hugging trees. Do you support Rotich? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why?
Thank you, Simba. I think what defines a human being varies between intent and consequence.
Yes.
So if that question is posed to me, that what do I think is fundamental? Is it intent or consequences for anything? I think I'll choose intent. And what defines the cause that Trufena Muthoni, you know, and even the reception that she received, was the acceptance, the acknowledgement of Kenyans for our intentions, the intentions for the exercise that she was undertaking. We have to make peace with one reality. Kenya is a copy and paste, as a copy and paste culture, a copycat culture. So much so that if I make noise in the streets of Nairobi today and I am rewarded for it, someone else will be doing it tomorrow. Simply because there are so many rewards for ridiculous things. Yes. I mean, Gideriman was rewarded massively for just taking lunch while voting. I mean, we have even someone called Nduruman. I mean, the guy trended a lot, not for something so pivotal or consequential, yes, but for screaming at the top of his voice in the streets of Nairobi. Yes. So Kenya has that culture of awarding the ridiculous. I mean, Kenyans try so much to run from their problems or the oppressions that they face by turning, facing on, if they are not memes, they are trendy acts. If they are not trendy acts, they are trendy phrases. If they are not trendy phrases, it has to be ridiculous acts. So history is not is not shy of situations where people have used physical endurance to, advocate for certain change in the society. We have been having people who undertake hunger strikes. We've been having people who run, for races. We had in Canada a chap, 22-year-old chap called Fox, who ran across Canada so that he could create awareness, on cancer and even raise funds towards, curing the same. Yes. We've been having even Bobby Sands in Ireland in 1981 who undertook a hunger strike for around 60-something days and even died while at it. And he was an MP. So when the intention is pure, that is amazing. But when we are seeing rewards and we are asking ourselves, why shouldn't I be, rewarded for hugging an electricity pole, outside my house and recording it and even taking intervals of rest so long as no one is watching so that I can train and my area MP can come and listen to me, then it becomes unfortunate. Yes. So Trufena was truthfully, advocating for things that they are a menace, in our society. Yes. Things like climate change, things like mental health, and she was so official even in her pursuits. But right now we are witnessing very interesting fellows. Even in Baringo County, where I come from, there is an MCA for a ward called Marigat Ward. So the MCA decided to go hug an electricity pole so that in pursuit of trying to tell the government that we need last mile electrification. I don't know how many hours he lasted, but it's ridiculous because he knows other mechanisms that he can advocate for the same. So it started like an excellent endeavor, an excellent, a worthwhile pursuit. But it is slowly turning into a very big joke.
Yes, just before I cross over to Vivian.
Yes.
I mean, for the critics who are looking at what's happening in Kenya, they're looking at the reward and the attention that is coming from those who are successfully doing these challenges. I'll go back to Fena Mudhoni. She did it, and all of a sudden the president was involved, the leaders across the country were involved. She got proper appointment and recognition within the government quarters, just out of hugging that tree for 72 hours. I'll take you back to the 2024 Gen Z protests. And you could see how they gained momentum. We did a lot of online activism, which transferred to ground activism as well. I mean, online calls were able to transfer numbers from online and took them to the ground to do the protests. But the consequences of those protests, I mean, they scared a lot of people from going to the streets. Massive abductions, massive deaths that followed those protests. If you're saying the intent is there, is it not possible for you to also say, I mean, majority of youth across the country have seen the reception that these tree-hugging protests are receiving from the government. So the best way then to communicate to the government or the authorities in this country is to go hug a tree. Is that not proper intent? Because protests on the ground and online now lead to dire consequences.
I hear you, Simba. But it becomes unfortunate where we see situations where even some individuals are doing it in pursuit of trying to channel praise to some political quarters, or even to highlight, their achievements in the society and the things that, they have achieved. Now,
Yes.
that is no longer protesting anything.
Yes.
That is now becoming an influencer.
Would it be called raising awareness to what's going on in the society, just like Vivian said it?
I think we are not downplaying the efforts that maybe the MP for that particular constituency has made towards ensuring that Article 43 of the Constitution on the right to education, or availability and affordability of education, is attained. But there are so many vices that are going on in this country. I mean, that particular region has been associated with things like maybe drug consumption, drug and substance use. We have so many things that we can raise awareness on in the society. You can see very clearly that this particular individual knows if the internet picks the story and it gets to the area MP, the area MP will be fascinated, and our politicians, I think, reward ridiculous acts so that they can just maintain us in a very interesting cocoon, because